Hillary Clinton is the guest speaker at tonight's Democratic fundraiser in Des Moines. Sarah Jarvis with a preview. Connie live with a Project Main Street report from Stewart. And football Friday night live from Johnston. Now this.
The machine shed has really great pork. And what am I bid? $5 1/4, 70 pounds, $7.5 sold.
Our Central Iowa forecast, a freeze advisory in effect for tonight, a low around 30. Tomorrow, partly cloudy skies, a high in the mid-50s. Tomorrow night, mostly clear, a low around 30. We'll have more news at 6. Now to CBS.
Millions of Americans tune in for a campaign talk fest, and President Bush scrambles to beat the clock. Eye on the campaign. Tonight, we listen to voters in the battleground state of Illinois about the sport of presidential politics. And on the eve of the World Series, foreigners threaten to smuggle the championship of the U.S. national pastime out of the country. This is the CBS Evening News. From the land of Lincoln, a Campaign 92 battleground state, Dan Rather reporting good evening from Chicago, Illinois. Well, it wasn't exactly a Lincoln-Douglas debate last night, but the second presidential joint appearance of the Campaign 92 was more civil and more substantive than the first. The audience saw to that, insisting that, for once, the candidates stick to the issues. Correspondent Mark Phillips begins our coverage.
The debate, the candidates will have...
In the campaign year of the talk show, this was the logical extension. But if the format had the potential to be another personal attack mud fight, it was left to one man in a ponytail to set the tone and tell the candidates that he wasn't going to take it anymore.
Can we focus on the issues and not the personalities and the mud?
George Bush had already fired off one early shot in an anticipated barrage of personal attacks.
You can call it mud wrestling, but I think it's fair to put it in focus is, I am deeply troubled by someone who demonstrates and organizes demonstration in a foreign land when his country's at war.
But the mud question seemed to take George Bush off his game and put Bill Clinton on his.
I'm just as sick as you are by having to wake up and figure out how to defend myself every day.
So that was that. This was a format that Bill Clinton wanted and used. His body language, strolling out toward the audience, seemed designed as the unspoken answer to the trust question. While George Bush seemed impatient at times. The shots where he was caught looking at his watch are being replayed like debate sound bites.
I have personal problems with the national debt, but how has it affected you? And if you have no experience in it, how can you help us?
And this opportunity to counter the view that the president is insensitive to the recession suffering went by as well.
I was in the Lomax AME church. It's a black church just outside of Washington, D.C. And I read in the bulletin about teenage pregnancies.
Bill Clinton again stepped forward.
In my state, when people lose their jobs, there's a good chance I'll know them by their names. When a factory closes, I know the people who ran it. When the businesses go bankrupt, I know them.
The verdict on who won the debate. A CBS News poll shows Bill Clinton by more than 2-1 over George Bush and even further ahead of Ross Perot, whose folksy renditions of the country's problems seemed less fresh the second time around, despite his offer to serve only one term as president and do it for free.
I don't have any spin doctors. I don't have any speech writers.
Except that Perot does have spin doctors.
Oh, definitely a win.
The debate format may have been different, but the scene afterwards in the spin room was just the same. Everybody won. Clinton.
He was calm. He was confident.
Bush.
It was a home run. We are delighted.
But spin has become so predictable that it may be dead as a campaign institution.
Well, it wouldn't be Kate if I didn't say we won.
The debates were billed as George Bush's last best chance to turn this race around, but more and more this election is looking like Bill Clinton's to lose, and if last night is any indication, the front-runner is showing no signs of fading. Mark Phillips, CBS News, Washington.
So 2.5 weeks to go till the election, and where do the candidates go from here? Let's bring in our CBS News Campaign 92 correspondent, Susan Spencer, covering Bush Quayle, Richard Threlkeld with Governor Bill Clinton in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and Bill Lagatuta with Ross Perot in Dallas. Susan, in public, the Bush people are saying their man certainly won. Is that what they really think?
Dan, what they really think is, as one source told me today, that last night's debate was, quote, a real dud for Mr. Bush. They know that time is running out. They know that they badly need a break. And last night, that audience just wasn't going to let the president talk on his issues of trust and character. Now, the president more than made up for that today, but he had to talk over hecklers to do it.
I wish these draft dodgers would shut up so I could finish my speech.
Speaking before a New Jersey crowd that included almost as many signs against as for him, the president accused the governor of a pattern of deception, a pattern he insisted that must not be brought into the Oval Office.
A lot of being president is about respect for that office and about telling the truth and serving your country. And you are all familiar with Governor Clinton's various stories on what he did to evade the draft. He still has not leveled with the American people. He still hasn't told the truth.
White House sources say that Mr. Bush will be just as direct in the last debate on Monday night if he gets a chance. And furthermore, that he will continue to hammer home the theme that Bill Clinton is not fit for office right up to the election, even if every poll in the country shows that Bill Clinton is going to win it. And now to Richard Threlkeld with the Clinton campaign in Baton Rouge.
Dan, for the first time, the Clinton campaign is daring to dream about victory in November, maybe a great big victory. Clinton got a big lift, emotional and otherwise, from last night's debate, and when you're ahead, everything seems to fall your way. The State Department now admits it was mistaken when it ordered what the Clinton campaign calls a highly improper search of Clinton's travel records while he was at Oxford. Today, the Clintons and Gores embarked from Baton Rouge on still another bus trip, along with some black congressmen from North and South, in an effort to get out the black vote. This trip is through Louisiana, formerly a Republican stronghold. But as with so many other Republican strongholds this fall, Louisiana is now up for grabs. And along the campaign trail for the first time, people in the crowds are beginning to call Bill Clinton Mr. President. Next week, Bill Clinton starts an 8-state tour of the West and Mountain states, evidence that this fall the Democrats do not intend to concede one single state to George Bush. Now to Bill Lagatuta at Perot headquarters in Dallas.
Well, Dick, one thing is certain here. Ross Perot certainly enjoys his role on stage, and Americans seem to be accepting him like a familiar TV character. But there's no sign that voters are rushing over to the Perot camp in great numbers. He'll have to win over large numbers of undecided voters if he's going to be a real force in the election. But here in the campaign, there is no real strategy for that. In fact, even Perot's inner circle will freely admit they have no idea what the billionaire plans to do next except to be on TV some more. He has another one of those paid infomercials coming on the air tonight in which he promises to detail solutions, not just problems. It's hard to know whether to take Perot seriously anymore. After the first debate, he told a group of supporters he wants to win. Last night during the debate, he said he didn't think he was going to win. And afterwards, he was asked how many states and which states he planned to target. Perot's response was, "I don't know, and I don't care." Dan?
Thanks, Bill Lagatuta, Susan Spencer, and Richard Threlkeld. We'll see you again as we go along the campaign trail. Still ahead on tonight's CBS Evening News from Chicago. A new investigation has been forced into the illegal bank loans to Saddam Hussein. Has there been criminal obstruction of justice? And nuclear smuggling, a deadly new racket in weapons of mass destruction.
When I hear the rain, I know I'm in for it. The dampness, the chill. Arthritis pain seems to come from every joint in my body. For pain like this, now instead of aspirin, I take Advil. Advil contains the same medicine my doctor often prescribes for arthritis pain. In fact, for minor arthritis pain, doctors recommend Advil most. With Advil, I'm on my way. Advil, tablets and caplets. Advanced medicine for pain.
Mothers have learned from countless doctors and pharmacists to take care of coughs with Robitussin. And they've taken this advice home. Robitussin, recommended by Dr. Mom. Ask your doctor or pharmacist.
What if you could get the fiber you need for regularity in a crisp, delicious wafer? Well, now you can. Metamucil wafers. All the effectiveness of Metamucil, and it tastes like a cookie. Metamucil wafers.
There will be a new in-house federal investigation in the case involving illegal loans by a bank in Atlanta to Saddam Hussein. United States Attorney General William Barr today named a retired federal judge, Fred Lacey, to lead the investigation, but he refused to name any independent special prosecutor. There are accusations that the Justice Department, the FBI, the CIA, and perhaps others in Washington withheld and blocked information in the criminal case. 50 United Nations inspectors arrived in Baghdad today, going ahead with a search for weapons of mass destruction. The UN rejected a request from the Iraqi government to postpone the mission until after the U.S. election. Saddam Hussein says the UN team may provoke a confrontation to help President Bush. Police in Germany say they've turned up what could be the makings of an atomic bomb in the trunk of a car near Munich. As correspondent Barry Peterson reports, this is a new kind of nuclear proliferation in the post-Cold War era.
Police made their chilling find at this freeway rest stop, black market uranium that may be enriched enough for use in nuclear weapons. And last weekend, when police discovered other smuggled radioactive material, they also found evidence that black marketeers were offering to sell an entire nuclear warhead. Police said a raid at an apartment turned up evidence of what they called a mafia-like organization funneling nuclear material into the West. The uranium may have come from either enrichment facilities or dismantled nuclear warheads in the former Soviet Union, smuggled through Poland into Germany. No one knows where it was headed. The Germans tonight appealed to Russia to increase security around an atomic arsenal that nuclear experts fear may go astray.
A relatively small quantity of material holds the potential to dramatically shift international relations.
The Germans are testing the uranium to see if it really is weapons grade, and they're calling for an international crackdown now that nuclear smuggling is a frightening reality. Barry Peterson, CBS News, London.
A crusader for the rights of Guatemalan Indians was awarded the 1992 Nobel Peace Prize today. Rigoberta Menchú got the word while she was taking part in protest marches in Guatemala against the 500th anniversary of Columbus's arrival in the New World. Menchú moved to Mexico in 1981 after her parents and brother were killed in the fight against Guatemala's military. Coming up here next on the CBS Evening News tonight from the Great Shed Aquarium in Chicago, the U.S. Senate race here in Illinois that traces its roots to the Clarence Thomas Anita Hill hearings.
Wilford Brimley for new Quaker Oats Plus Fiber.
Every day should feel this good.
Maybe what you need to help feel your best is a good high-fiber cereal. In that case, Quaker's got some good news for you. Quaker Oats Plus Fiber. It's brand new, and it's got as much fiber as a lot of those cold high fibers. But this one, hot Quaker Oats.
Every day should feel this good.
Imagine a rent-a-car company that offers special delivery right to your door. That's Enterprise.
Here, let me help you.
Enterprise, a special rent-a-car company that gives you special delivery.
There's one battery that backs you with free jumpstart service anywhere for any reason. Die Hard.
Can't believe I left my lights on.
Sears Die Hard, the battery you can count on to give you more power when you need it most.
This is one way to cut some fat from your family's diet. This is a whole new way. Introducing new Promise Ultra, the spread that's the absolute lowest in fat of any leading brand. That's right. Promise Ultra is the lowest in fat. Plus, it has 65% fewer calories than margarine and a light, delicate taste. So cut some fat from your family's diet a whole new way with Promise Ultra. Get heart smart.
You can't be president and not sit down with Larry King. You can't be Larry King and not sit down with Mike Wallace. Sunday on 60 Minutes.
18 days before the election, there are new warning signs that what's been called the economic recovery may be stalling. The government now officially says production by American industry fell in September for the second straight month. U.S. exports, touted by President Bush as one of the bright spots in the economy, plunged 6% in August, and Pratt & Whitney, the jet engine maker, says it will cut another 4,800 jobs by next June. Well, here around the Shedd Aquarium in Chicago and elsewhere around the state of Illinois, jobs and the economy are the top election issues. Illinois, of course, is a key battleground state with 22 electoral votes. The latest CBS News New York Times poll indicates the Clinton-Gore ticket may hold a substantial lead here over Bush-Quayle, with Perot-Stockdale a distant third. In the U.S. Senate contest here, Democrat Carol Moseley Braun appears to be well ahead of Republican Rich Williamson in the polls in what many call the year of the woman. Bob Schieffer has more about the Illinois Senate race.
You got I'm Darlene, this is my sister Karen. We just love you.
For Carol Moseley Braun, even a stroll through the county building in Chicago becomes a campaign swing.
I'm smiling, okay.
Thank you.
She is the candidate people love to hug, and if she wins, she'll be the first black woman ever elected to the U.S. Senate. A little-known county official from Chicago, she rode the Anita Hill backlash to an upset primary win over a powerful incumbent senator.
Carol Moseley Braun of Illinois!
Thrust into the national spotlight, she became a down-to-earth symbol of the real change that fed-up voters everywhere were demanding.
We symbolize hope. I feel very positive about being a symbol of change and something positive and something good for our community.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Zooming in the polls, she seemed headed for an easy Senate victory until 3 weeks ago, when things abruptly turned sour.
Carol, will you stop for a moment?
No, I won't.
Suddenly, reporters were dogging her every step as charges surfaced she had misrepresented the financial worth of her ailing mother in order to get the invalid woman Medicaid payments. Braun called it a mix-up. But Rich Williamson, her little-known Republican opponent, finally had an issue.
She thinks there's one standard for her on ethics and another one for everybody else.
And in suburban Evanston, some voters clearly believed Braun had not come clean.
She didn't answer any of the questions that should have been answered.
But in this era of voter discontent, Braun, to many, is still the best way to shake up the system.
I think people are sick of what's been going on for the last 12 years, and she represents a big change.
What about the fact she's a woman?
That helps. And being black helps too.
And in their first debate this week, Braun finally counterattacked.
I have now spent the last 6 months engaged in or fighting the most sleazy campaign we have seen in Illinois history.
Although her support has shrunk, pollsters say she still has a comfortable lead and should win. And if she does, the United States Senate will begin to look a little more like the rest of the country. Bob Schieffer, CBS News, Chicago.
And we'll have more CBS News in a moment, including we'll take you to a World Series preview in the Sky Dome in Canada.
Louise here was saying that she will not freeze her hearty chicken soup in Gladlock zipper bags.
No, I'll only use the bag my mother uses.
Really? Well, let's go live to your parents' house.
Louise, we've switched to Gladlock zipper bags. Their yellow and blue make green seal shows the bag is closed. Your bag doesn't have a green seal. If you'd visit more often, you'd know that.
I'll switch to Gladlock too.
Isn't it nice to see Gladlock bringing families together? When it really counts, only Gladlock has the yellow and blue make green seal.
Who needs a pot of coffee before work? Try Folgers Coffee Singles, made with ground roast coffee and its own filter for one freshly brewed cup. Folgers Coffee Singles, the ultimate one-cup coffee machine.
You know, Sunsweet pitted prunes also come in this nice little bite size. And they're every bit as sweet and delicious as Sunsweet's larger ones. Of course, that's just my opinion, which I certainly respect.
Every day, you invite us into your home to share the news of the day.
And now we'd like to invite you to join us here at TV8 for a public open house, Sunday, October 18th from 1 to 4.
Come and meet the people that bring you the news and take a look behind the scenes at what goes into creating Iowa's most watched news.
Tour the studios and register to win a VCR and a 27-inch color television.
Take a peek into the future and a look back at the past.
So please join us.
All of us.
For the TV8 open house, Sunday, October 18th from 1 to 4.
Well, besides politics, the talk of Chicago is baseball. Baseball's Fall Classic begins tomorrow night in Atlanta, and for the first time ever, the World Series is an international event. From Toronto, Giselle Fernandez reports on baseball north of the border.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land.
Without a doubt, hockey is to Canada what baseball is to America. Arctic neighbors to the north don't seem to be happy or satisfied with just owning one national pastime. For the first time ever, they're taking a real hard swing at a new one. Ours.
Blue Jays have finally won the pennant.
It's a baseball first. The Toronto Blue Jays have won their way into an American institution. It is the first foreign team ever to play in the World Series. They went wild in Toronto. It's just the slice of mom and apple pie fans here have been frothing for.
It's America's pastime, and it's about time that Canada won it. We're beating them at their own game, and I think it's damn great.
But not so great for diehard fans in the States, who say in the land of Babe Ruth, this is blasphemy.
Yeah, I personally think our national self-esteem is at such a critically low level that the idea of a Canadian team winning this so near a national election could be very dangerous to our national psyche.
Famous Canadian John Candy, who's made it in America, says it's all part of a master plan.
It means a great deal. I mean, look at the support that they've given. Like, what did they reach? 4.3 million in attendance this year? Has any other city done that? I don't think so. To quote Home Alone, I don't think so.
Ironically, it's a real American success story. A team launched off a snowy mound just 15 years ago has climbed into the first real international World Series.
Glorious and free.
Canadians bursting now more than ever with national pride say Americans should take heart. It's not so bad. The first foreign ball club in the World Series is made up mostly of American players. Giselle Fernandez, CBS News, Toronto, Canada.
You've just poured the milk on your bowl of Kellogg's Crispix when something keeps you from it. Good thing Crispix has a special shape that stands up to milk. So even if you can't get to it right away, Crispix still stays crispy and great tasting.
They're still crispy.
Kellogg's Crispix, the taste that waits for you.
Well, it's here. Time for me to step down and retire as chairman of Chrysler. And hey, anybody that goes out wants to go out with a bang. And we've got a bang that'll be heard from Germany to Japan. It's a new car design that's as revolutionary as our minivan was. It's going to change the way cars are designed from now on. We call it cab forward. What we did was move the windshield forward. Then we pulled the rear wheels back, made the rear doors wider and easier to get through, and increased the width. Believe me, this does more than just improve the looks. It gives you a lot more room inside, it rides better, and it's easier to handle. I think cab forward, like our minivan, is going to get copied by everybody. It has to, just because it makes so much sense. You know, I got to tell you, when it's your last turn at bat, it sure is nice to hit a home run.
1 gram of fat, or 1 gram of fat. That's all the fat in this luscious chicken Mirabella. Just one of Weight Watchers' new smart ones. The only line of entrees with 1 gram of fat.
Total indulgence, zero guilt.
If you suffer from awful sinus attacks, try Dristan Sinus. Unlike these, Dristan Sinus has a decongestant and the modern pain reliever ibuprofen to relieve sinus pain, all without drowsiness. Dristan Sinus, the face of relief today.
This is the time when the entire nation focuses in on two of its favorite spectator sports. Baseball, the World Series starts tomorrow, and politics. The presidential campaign is now in the home stretch. We came to Wrigley Field, one of Chicago's enduring landmarks, to listen to voters in a key state. It's part of our continuing series, Eye on the Campaign. Tonight, the big battleground state of Illinois.
And let's talk about jobs, health care, crime.
Last night, we asked a group of Chicago area voters, most of them still straddling the fence, to watch the debate with us. Today, we asked them to meet us in the stands at Wrigley Field to talk about the debate and the presidential campaign. There's Tom Stein, an accountant, Juliet Amenta, who works for the phone company, Primus Mutri, a school administrator, Gina Alvarez, an employee of the Teamsters Pension Fund, and Fred Walski, a marketing executive who lost his job about a year ago. Let's throw it open. What'd you think of the candidates' joint appearances last night, the debates? What'd you think of them?
That format was one of the most unique I've seen in years, and it allowed the candidates to really talk about issues in much more depth and detail. And I think the fact that people were asking the questions, they were committed to not letting them wrangle out with their usual rhetoric, political rhetoric.
Right, I agree with the unstructured format because they could not prepare in advance. They had to answer with what they knew. And I think it was a good idea.
The big winner in that debate was the audience because they forced the issue. They forced the candidates to get off the mudslinging and all of the irrelevant issues and speak with to specific points, and to do that with some detail, and it was very refreshing.
All the things you heard the candidates say, what sticks in your mind today?
I think this country owes Ross Perot a great debt of gratitude because he is saying some things that need to be said and need to be said at that level and perhaps from that type of messenger.
He is forcing Bush and he is forcing Clinton to deal with these issues and be more specific about what their programs really are.
Saying things like, I'm only running for one term, that tells you that this man is only interested in improving our way of living, our political life, our infrastructure, our economy.
Well, I'm hearing a lot of Perot talk here.
I like what Perot is saying. What he's saying makes sense. And
you vote for him? Will you vote for him?
Well, that's another issue. There's a question of whether or not, in fact, the man is electable. I mean, I don't know whether a vote for Perot would in fact be a vote for Bush. I'm not sure.
And if it were, would that affect your decision on how
Yes, it would. Yes, it would. It would force me to vote for Clinton.
How are you leaning?
I won't throw my vote away. I won't if we get down to the 1st of November and Perot is still as low as he is in the polls, I'll vote for Clinton. I want a voice.
What do you like? What do you intend to vote for him now? What do you like about President Bush?
President Bush has experience. He has a long track record in government and a successful track record in government. He may be a little down right now on economic issues, so we have to question how much is due to President Bush's term in office and how much is due to things that affect businesses and in operating in a global economy. But with the experience and leadership that he has, I think that is his most effective trait that he has to offer us right now, that he's been there and he's done it.
I don't see how you can say that. I mean, on the international scene, perhaps there are some things that are to the man's credit, to the president's credit. In this country, people are suffering all over the country and have been for years.
I don't think he's aware of what the middle class is really going through. I don't think he understands it. That's why I feel he's out of touch.
Let me ask you this. This is going to require a show of hands. Regardless of how you may be leaning, what you might be thinking, who do you think performed best in last night's event? President Bush? Nobody thought President Bush performed the best? Ross Perot? Clinton? Everybody thought Clinton performed the best on this occasion.
He's a good performer.
Talking politics at Wrigley Field. Our eye on the campaign for this Friday. Next Friday, Campaign Insiders. 2 weeks from tonight, we'll be reporting to you from another key battleground state, listening to you, the voters. Being here at the ballpark reminds me to remind you, don't forget, CBS coverage of the World Series begins tomorrow night. Dan Rather for the CBS Evening News. From Chicago, good night, everybody.
CBS News.
Next on the TV8 News, a room full of antiques worth tens of thousands of dollars, all stolen. Jeff Greenwood with details coming up.
is the star of tonight's Iowa Democrats show. I'm Sarah Jarvis. I'll have a preview.
And a picturesque reminder about the days ahead, plus Connie's cold forecast.
Plus a Project Main Street from Stewart and a live high school football preview from Johnston. TV8 News is next.
Shop Carpet Gallery, the home of Padman, for quality, value, and service the way it used to be.
Carpet Gallery's installation was just excellent, and I was so pleased with the thorough job that they did. They were prompt, they were clean, they swept after they put it in. It just looked great. They were really concerned that I was happy with the job before they left.
It's the best for less sale. Thousands of styles and colors as low as $9.88 per square yard. Pad and labor at no extra charge, plus Alexander Smith carpet as low as $15.88 now through Saturday.
First, we gave you the attractive Jeep Cherokee Sport, but you said,
more. Give me more.
So we added a 190 horsepower engine, but you still said,
more. Give me more.
So we added air conditioning,
more.
Power steering,
more.
And AM/FM stereo, all for a great price.
Less. Make it less.
Okay?
Okay.
So hurry to your Jeep and Eagle dealer, look at a Jeep Cherokee Sport and say, sold.
See your local Jeep and Eagle dealer.
I'm always flattered when a former student comes back to me for advice, like when Paul here asked me about home equity loans. I told him that Norwest Bank has an interest rate of under 9% with no closing fees on loans of $5,000 or more. I also told him how Norwest will respond to his application in only 4 hours. That's when I noticed he was chewing gum. Cross your T and call Norwest today.
You're watching today's TV8. And this is News Now. This is TV8 News at 6.
Good evening. Thanks for being with us. I'm Sue Mason.
And I'm Steve Carlin. Paul and Kevin are off. Police say a busy burglar is behind bars tonight.
Authorities in Ames say the suspect ripped off enough antiques to fill a building. At least 17 separate break-ins. TV8's Jeff Greenwood has our story.
There's so much stolen here that police had to store these items in a separate building. Most of the items here are antiques stolen from at least 17 people in Boone County and Ames. Police say the thief targeted antiques stored in rented garages and storage lockers.
People don't tend to check their storage building every day, so sometimes months would go by and by the time they realized the thing was missing, he'd already converted it to cash.
The suspect is identified as 34-year-old Kevin Carroll of Ames. Ames police charged him with 3 burglary counts and Boone County with 3 more. Police allege he's responsible for 14 break-ins in Boone County alone.
The detectives and the officers were very successful yesterday in recovering a number of very expensive antique items. And
Ames Police Sergeant Craig Reed.
Some of the items are like pink depression glass. There was an entire set. Some of the antique toys were very expensive, an original metal G.I. Joe doll, some other metal toys, this child on a tricycle, and that's $600 right there. And some older antique wooden toys as well.
Police are still trying to identify victims. They say it's not easy connecting antiques with owners, especially since some may still not know their items have been stolen. Jeff Greenwood, TV8 News, Ames.
Here in Des Moines, an armed robber dubbed the Hawkeye Bandit has struck again. This videotape of one of 9 armed robberies committed by what appears to be the same suspect. His trademark, an Iowa Hawkeye jacket. The bandit also often asks to use the bathroom before he holds up the business. Des Moines police say he struck again just last night at the Home Team Pizza on Southwest 9th. The suspect is described as a black man in his late 20s or early 30s, 5'7", 170 pounds, wearing that Hawkeye jacket. Any information, please call police.
And police say it appears